Welcome to today's Triple Z. The Triple Z podcast is a daily program that you can use to help you fall asleep each night. Just turn down the volume, lay back, and enjoy as you fall asleep. Today we are traveling back in time to 1979 and learning about the Dasher computer terminal created by the General Data Corporation. This is an early computer designed to be a terminal to a larger mainframe computer. If you enjoy our program, please be sure to write us a review on your podcast platform and share us with a friend. You both might sleep just a little better at night. Our website is ZZZ, that's 3z's.media. You can also like and share our content on Facebook or our Instagram account ZZZ Media Podcast. Music for today's episode was provided by the Sleep channel on Spotify. Notice: users are cautioned that GDC reserves the right to make changes without notice in the specifications and materials contained herein and shall not be responsible for any images, including consequential, caused by reliance on the materials presented, including, but not limited to typographical, arithmetic, or listing errors. First printing October 1979. Preface. The Dasher D100 and D200 User's Manual provides a wide spectrum of product information. Each chapter is intended to support a specific user requirement. Chapter 1 provides the system's programmer or engineer with a description of the functional capabilities of the display terminals. The technical specifications appear on the inside of the front cover. Chapter 2 explains to the programmer the codes required to drive and manipulate the display of information on the terminal screen. This chapter also explains how a group of special codes that are totally user-definable can be generated by the keyboards. Chapters 3 and 4 provide the system's engineer and installer with interfacing, cabling, installation, and checkout information and instructions. Chapter 5 describes the basic components that comprise the display terminals and provides an overview of theory of operation for the system's engineer. A companion book, the Dasher D100 and D200 Operator's Manual, tells how to operate the display terminals. Chapter 1. Product Overview. Dasher D100 and D200 display terminals are ASCII-based, softcopy devices that support the full upper or lowercase alphanumeric printing character set. Both terminals are offered with the following choice of international character fonts: American, British, Danish, Norwegian, French, German, Spanish, Swedish, and Finnish. Designed for use in a wide range of interactive terminal applications, D100 and D200 terminals communicate with a computer in full duplex mode over either a 20 mA current loop or EIA-RS-232C communications line. Both models support a subset of standard EIA modem control functions that allows them to interface to Bell 103, 113, or 212 compatible modems. D100 and D200 terminals consist of two units, a CRT display mounted on a swivel base, and a detached keyboard. A 3.95-foot or 1.2 meter external cable connects them. Online, the display and keyboard function as two independent I/O devices while sharing a common asynchronous interface located in the display unit to communicate with the computer. The terminal's asynchronous interface transmits and receives serial data bursts at transmission rates ranging from 50 to 19,200 bits per second. Additionally, D100 and D200 terminals have a split baud and printer option. When present, This option allows the transmit and receive transmission rates to be selected independently. While each serial data burst must contain 1 start bit and 7 data bits, the remaining code parameters, parity type and number of stop bits, as well as the data transmission rates are switch selectable. Display. The display unit of both terminals has a 1920 character semiconductor memory and a non-interlaced video monitor with a 12-inch diagonal screen. The screen's active area is 8.5 inches by 5.5 inches, formatted as 24 lines, 80 characters per line. All printing characters sent to the display are stored in memory and displayed on the screen as 7 by 11 dot matrices. The non-destructive cursor is displayed as a solid 7 by 11 white field. All dots in the 7 by 11 matrix are intensified. The display interprets a subset of the ASCII 128 control characters as display commands. In general, D100 and D200 display commands can be divided into 3 functional groups: screen control and cursor commands, character attribute commands, terminal identification and remote diagnostic commands. The first command group controls screen erasing, blinking, and rolling, as well as cursor positioning and sensing. The second command group assigns one or more of the following attributes to displayable characters: blink, dim, underscore, and/or reverse video, black character on a white field. Since attributes are added to characters as they are stored in the display's memory, they can be added or deleted on a character-by-character basis. The third command group initiates the transmission of terminal identification information to the computer. It also places the terminal in diagnostic mode. In this mode, Dasher D100 and D200 diagnostic programs can be remotely loaded from the computer and executed by the terminal's internal microprocessor. Keyboard. Figures 1.2 and 1.3 show the D100 and D200 keyboards, respectively. Both keyboards have typewriter-style main keypads and incorporate a type-o-matic facility. Type-o-matic allows the user to repeat a character at a 10 character per second rate by simply pressing a key for a period of 1 second or more. In addition to the main keypad, the keyboards contain one or more supplementary keypads. D100 keyboards contain a single supplementary keypad that combines screen management functions with standard numeric keys. D200 keyboards contain 2 supplementary keypads, screen management and numeric, plus 15 user function keys. User function keys. While the D200 keyboard has 15 dedicated user function keys, D100 and D200 keyboards can generate 35 and 75 unique user function codes, respectively. These codes, consisting of 2 code sequences, are user-definable and thus expand the functional capability of the keyboards from an application's viewpoint. Diagnostics. On power-up, D100 and D200 terminals execute a self-test that verifies the proper operation of the terminal's control logic and the presence of the keyboard. If the terminal fails its self-test, it generates a bell tone and displays a failure code on the screen. On command, the terminals execute remotely loaded diagnostics. Split baud and printer option. This option expands the capabilities of D100 and D200 terminals in the following manner. The split baud portion of the option allows independent selection of transmit and receive transmission rates. When the option is selected, The terminal receives information at rates ranging from 50 to 19,200 bits per second and transmits information at rates ranging from 110 to 4,800 bits per second. The printer portion of the option interfaces an ASCII-based serial printer directly to the terminal, thus providing facilities for hard copy output of information displayed on the screen. Chapter 2: Programming. From a programmer's point of view, the Dasher D100 and D200 display terminal consists of two independent I/O devices, a keyboard input device and a display output device. Thus, online communication between them must be provided by the computer's software. This means that all displayable information entered at the keyboard must be echoed to the display by the executing program. Transmission and reception. D100 and D200 terminals transmit and receive information serially, one character at a time. The transmission rate and portions of the serial character format are defined by the setting of switches located in the display unit. Data transmission rates range from 50 to 19,200 bits per second. The format of each serial character appears below. 1 start bit, 7 data bits, 1 or 0 parity bit, switch selectable, 1 or 2 stop bits, switch selectable. If selected, parity can be even, odd, or mark. The number of stop bits selected normally depends upon the data transmission rate. For more information, refer to Chapter 4, Installation. Once the terminal's transmission rate and character code format are selected, all data transmitted by the terminal will conform to these conventions. Furthermore, all data received by the terminal must also conform to the selected conventions, otherwise, a transmission error will occur. The terminal indicates a transmission error by displaying a white field that is smaller than the cursor. Online OFF line mode. Keyboard. D100 and D200 keyboards can transmit the 96 graphic characters of the ASCII 128 character set as well as 30 of the 32 ASCII control characters. These codes are listed in appendices A and B. The keyboards cannot independently transmit the following ASCII control characters: unit separator 0378 and record separator 0368. Unit separator is the header code for a 3-code sequence. The terminal transmits this code sequence in response to a display command requesting cursor position information. This is explained more fully under the Read Cursor Address command description later in this chapter. User function codes. Record separator is the header code for all user function codes, i.e., the keyboard transmits this control code as the first code in each user function 2-code sequence. The second code is one of the ASCII characters listed in Appendix C. D200 keyboards can transmit 75 unique user function 2-code sequences, while D100 keyboards can transmit 35 of them. Figures 2.1 and 2.2 define the location of the user function keys on the D100 and D200 keyboards, respectively. On power-up, the terminal executes a self-test. At the conclusion of a successful self-test, it senses the communications interface connector. If the connector is properly inserted, the terminal enters online mode. After this occurs, the operating mode of the terminal, on or offline, can be selected by the operator at the keyboard. Notes. All codes indicated by number are the second codes in the two-code sequence generated by pressing a user function key. The first code is always the user function header code 0368. To generate user function sequences using the keys F1, F10 and print keys, press Command-Shift key. Note that the print key operates as a user function key only when no printer option is present. To generate user function sequences using keys C1, C4, the cursor numeric pad must be in cursor lock mode. Function sequences can be generated by the home and 4 cursor control keys in or out of cursor lock mode. For more information, see Operator's Manual 0140000641. All codes indicated by number are the second code in the two-code sequence generated by pressing a user function key. The first code is always the user function header code 0368. To generate the function codes associated with keys FI5 and C1, C4, press Ctrl-Left-Shift key. To generate the function codes associated with the print key, press Command-Shift-Print. For more information, see Operator's Manual 0140000641. Display. The display responds to ASCII characters in the following manner. It plots the 96 graphic characters as 7 by 11 dot matrices on its screen. It decodes control characters and performs specified functions when the decoded character is a display command. It ignores control characters that are not recognized as display commands. The display plots graphic characters on its screen using a 24-line, 80 characters per line format. Within this format, a character's location on the screen is defined by the position of the cursor when the character is received. As the display plots each character, the cursor moves one character position to the right. To facilitate character positioning on the screen, a group of display commands is dedicated to manipulating the cursor's position. Display commands. Display commands can be divided into 4 functional groups. Screen control commands, cursor position commands, character attribute commands, terminal identification and diagnostic commands. A 5th group, print commands, is available when the terminal includes the split baud and printer option. In the discussions that follow, display commands are described using the format shown below. Screen control commands. 6 commands enable or inhibit screen rolling and character blinking and erase either a line of characters or the whole screen. These commands are described below. Roll enable. Function turns on roll mode. In this mode, each time a command is issued that would move the cursor beyond the bottom of the screen rolls up one line. The cursor then moves to the new, blank, bottom line and information previously displayed on the top line is lost. When the terminal is powered up, this command is automatically executed. Function turns off roll mode. In this mode, each time a command is issued that would move the cursor beyond the bottom of the screen, the cursor moves to the top line. Control-S or Control-Shift-S. Function erases displayed characters, beginning with the current position of the cursor to the end of that line. Control-K or Control-Shift-K. Function erases all displayed characters and moves the cursor to the first, leftmost, position on the top line of the screen. Also, Erase page forces the execution of the following commands: end blink, end underscore, end dim, end reverse video, and enable blink. Control L, Control Shift L, Command equal or Command Shift equal function allows the screen to blink any character whose blink attribute is turned on. See the Start Blink command description. When the terminal is powered up or an erase page command is executed, enable blink is automatically executed. Control C or Control Shift C function disables character blinking regardless of the state of the blink attributes assigned to displayed characters. Cursor position commands. 9 commands relate to the cursor's position. 8 of them move the cursor around the screen. The 9th command sends the cursor's column and row positions to the computer. In addition to responding to these commands, the cursor automatically moves under the following conditions. It moves 1 character position to the right each time. The display plots a new graphic character on its screen. It moves to the first, leftmost, character position on the next line each time the display plots a new graphic character in the last, rightmost, character position on the current line. When the next line exceeds the screen's capacity, the new location of the cursor depends upon the roll mode state of the display. In cases where the cursor moves to a position already occupied by a graphic character, that character is displayed in reverse video form, i.e., a black character appears on a white field. Carriage return function moves the cursor to the first character position on the current line. Carriage return, Shift carriage return, Control carriage return, Control Shift carriage return, Control M or Control Shift M function moves the cursor to the first character position on the next line. New line, Shift new line, Control new line. Control Shift new line, Control J or Control Shift J function moves the cursor up 1 line while remaining in the same column, character, position. If the cursor is on the top line, it moves to the bottom line of the screen. D100 keyboard. Control W, Control Shift W function moves the cursor 1 column position to the right. If the cursor is at the end of a line, a new line operation is performed. Control X, Control Shift X function moves the cursor 1 column position to the left. If the cursor is in the first column position of a line, it moves to the last column position and a cursor up operation is performed. Control Y, Control Shift Y function moves the cursor down 1 line while remaining in the same column position. If the cursor is on the bottom line, its new location depends upon the roll mode state of the display. Control Z, Control Shift Z, or F function moves the cursor to the first column position on the top line. This command is automatically executed each time an erase page command is issued. Control H, Control Shift H, or Home function moves the cursor to the position defined by the next 2 codes received by the display. The first code is interpreted as the column position, numbered from left to right, 000 through 117.8, and the second code is interpreted as the line position, numbered from top to bottom, 000 through 027. If the column position code is greater than 117, the cursor control logic wraps around, example, 121.8 equals 001. The line position code is handled in a similar manner. Control P or Control Shift P, column code, line code. Function: the terminal sends the following 3 code sequence to the computer. 037. Column position 000 through 117. Line position 000 through 027. See the right cursor address command for information about the column and line position code meanings. Control-E or Control-Shift-E. Character attribute commands. 8 commands allow characters to be dimmed, blinked, underscored, and or displayed in a reverse video block, black character on a white field. Since the commands turn blinking, dimming, underscoring, and reverse video on and off independently, one character may be dimmed and underscored while another may be underscored in a blinking reverse video block. Notes: dimming a reverse video character is meaningless, since reverse video characters are always dimmed. Function: turns on the blink attribute of each successive character received by the display. However, before any character will blink, the screen must be blink enabled. Refer to the screen control commands. Control-N or Control-Shift-N. Function: turns off the blink attribute of each successive character received by the display. This command is automatically executed each time an erase page command is issued. Control-0 or Control-Shift-O. Function: turns on the dim attribute of each successive character received by the display. Control-A. Function: turns off the dim attribute of each successive character received by the display. This command is automatically executed each time an erase page command is issued. Control left bracket. Function: turns on the underscore attribute of each successive character received by the display. Control-T or Control-Shift-T. Function: turns off the underscore attribute of each successive character received by the display. This command is automatically executed each time an erase page command is issued. Control-U or Control-Shift-U. Function: turns on the reverse video attribute of each successive character received by the display. This command, consisting of a 2-code sequence, cannot be generated by the keyboard. Reverse video. Function: turns off the reverse video attribute of each successive character received by the display. This command is automatically executed each time an erase page command is issued. This command, consisting of a 2-code sequence, cannot be generated by the keyboard. Terminal identification and diagnostic commands. 3 commands allow a computer to identify and test the display terminals. A 4th command generates a bell tone that can be used to alert the operator to an impending event. Model report request. The meaning of the configuration code is shown in Table 2.1. In the table, bit 6 represents the most significant bit while bit 0 represents the least significant bit. Since bit may 7th or may not be transmitted, depending upon the parity selection of the terminal, this bit is ignored. Enter remote test. Function: places the terminal in diagnostic mode, thus allowing it to receive programs that will be executed by the terminal's internal microprocessor. In this mode, the keyboard is effectively disabled. To exit diagnostic mode, either issue the exit remote test command or power down the terminal. Exit remote test. Function: terminates diagnostic mode. After this command is issued, the terminal automatically executes its self-test, providing the terminal was in diagnostic mode. Otherwise, the command is ignored. Bell. Function: the terminal sounds a bell tone. Control-G or Control-Shift-G. Printer commands. Two commands initiate print operations when the D100 and D200 terminal is interfaced to an ASCII-based serial printer. Print. Function: transmits the information appearing on the display screen to the printer, beginning with the line on which the cursor is located. During the print operation, the keyboard cannot transmit information to the computer. However, a print operation can be aborted from the keyboard by typing command-return. Control-Q, Control-Shift-Q, or command // Command print. Function: transmits the information displayed at full intensity to the printer, beginning with the line on which the cursor is located. Dimmed characters are ignored. During the print operation, the keyboard cannot transmit information to the computer. However, a print form operation can be aborted from the keyboard by typing command-return. Interfacing and cabling. Your D100 and D200 display terminals contain a serial asynchronous interface that supports full duplex communication with a computer or communication system. The interface accommodates both 20 mA current loop and EIA RS-232C connections and provides a subset of standard EIA modem control functions. Your D100 and D200 terminals equipped with the split baud and printer option contain a second serial asynchronous interface and support logic. The optional printer interface performs the following functions. It transmits serial data to an ASCII-based printer. It defines the transmission rate of data transmitted by the terminal when selected. Thus, the split baud portion of the option allows the terminal to support a communications line with two bandwidths, one high speed and one low speed. Communications interface. The terminal's communications interface transmits and receives serial data bursts that consist of one start bit, 7 data bits, an optional parity bit, and 1 or 2 stop bits. Chapter 4, Installation, explains how to select the parity bit as well as the data transmission rate, baud. The number of stop bits normally depends upon the selected transmission rate. When operating at 110 baud and below, 2 stop bits are automatically selected. When operating at 134.5 to 19,200 baud, 1 stop bit is selected. However, if the split baud option is enabled, 1 stop bit is selected for all baud rates. Cabling. In general, the choice of communications line, 20 mA current loop or EIA, depends upon the cable length required, the presence of a modem, and the configuration of the host system. When a long cable is required to connect the terminal directly to a system, the 20 mA current loop connection can be used. It supports a 1500-foot, 457.2 meters, cable at transmission rates up to 9600 baud and a 500-foot, 152.4 meters, cable at 19,200 baud. When a short cable, 50 feet or 15.2 meters maximum, is required or the terminal is interfaced to a Bell 103, 113 or 212 compatible modem, the EIA connection can be used. EIA connection. Figure 3.2 shows the 25-pin Canon connector located at the back of the terminal that joins the terminal's EIA interface to a computer or modem via an EIA cable. Figure 3.3 lists the EIA cables that are available from Data General and identifies the pin connections. When using a cable not shown in Figure 3.3, wire the terminal end as shown in Figure 3.4. Use the following configuration when interfacing with Data General EIA controllers. If these connections are not made, the terminal will not go online. Use the following configuration when interfacing to a Bell 103, 113, or 212 compatible full duplex modem. EIA interface function. Data transmitted by the terminal. Data received by the terminal. This signal is asserted by the terminal when powered up. It tells the modem that the terminal is ready. This signal must be asserted for the terminal to go online. If the controlling device negates DSR, the terminal goes offline. This signal must be asserted for the terminal to receive data. If the controlling device negates DCD, the terminal will stay online but will not receive data until DCD is asserted again. This signal is asserted by the terminal to indicate it would like to transmit data. D100 and D200 terminals always assert this signal because they operate in full duplex mode. This signal is asserted by the modem in response to RTS from the terminal. The terminal can transmit data only when CTS is asserted. This signal provides a ground reference for EIA voltage levels. Current loop connection. The 20 mA current loop interface can be either active or passive. In an active connection, the terminal supplies the energy to drive the terminal's interface. In a passive connection, the computer or communication system supplies the energy. The same 25-pin Canon connector used for EIA connections joins the terminal's current loop interface to a computer via a current loop cable. Refer to Figure 3.2. Figure 3.5 lists the current loop cables that are available from Data General and identifies the pin connections. When using a cable not shown in Figure 3.5, select a passive or active connection by wiring the terminal end of the cable as shown in Figure 3.6. Use the following configuration to select a passive current loop connection. All data. General current loop controllers use this type of connection. Use the following configuration to select an active current loop configuration. Optional printer interface. Chapter 4, Installation, explains how to tailor the split baud portion of this interface. The printer portion of the interface transmits serial data to the printer that consists of 1 start bit, 7 data bits, an even parity bit, and 1 or 2 stop bits. The printer interface is joined to the printer via the 7-pin connector shown in Figure 3.8 and an EIA RS-232C cable. Figure 3.9 shows the Data General cable that connects a D100 and D200 display terminal to a Dasher TP1 or TP2 printer. When using any other EIA cable, wire the terminal end as shown in Figure 3.8. When connecting a printer without a CTS signal, tie RTS to CTS. However, make sure your printer can accept data at the selected baud rate. The printer can use CTS as a transmit-enable signal if its received baud rate is greater than its average print rate. Chapter 4. Installation. After selecting the appropriate cable connections, as described in Chapter 3, the D100 and D200 terminal installer should choose a site for the terminal, unpack the terminal, Tailor the communications interface. Tailor the optional printer interface when present. Perform an operational checkout. Choosing a site. Choose a site for the Dasher D100 and D200 terminal using the specifications shown in Figure 4.1 and Table 4.1. Unpacking. Unpack the display and keyboard as shown in Figure 4.2. Then, plug the cable attached to the keyboard into the receptacle provided at the rear of the display unit. See Figure 4.3. Communications interface tailoring. Tailoring the communications interface consists of selecting the parity and data transmission rate (baud) for the terminal. Figure 4.4 locates and identifies the switches that are used for this purpose. If the split baud portion of the optional printer interface will be used, follow the directions set forth in Figure 4.4 for received data, i.e., the data received by the terminal. Then, refer to Figure 4.5. This figure locates and identifies the switches that enable the split baud feature and select the data transmission rate for transmit data. The state of the parity bit is set such that there are an even number of ones in the transmitted character. The state of the parity bit is set such that there are an odd number of ones in the transmitted character. There is no parity bit. Note, if the terminal is online when the position of these switches is changed, initiate the changes by placing the terminal offline and then back online. See Operator's Manual. Caution hazardous voltages. Wait at least 5 minutes after power down before opening case. To open case: 1. Turn off terminal, unplug power cord, and wait at least 5 minutes. 2. Remove the power on-off knob by pulling it straight out. Push switch into the OFF position. 3. Loosen the 2 screws underneath the front of case. 4. While holding the bottom of the case, lift the top of the case up until the support wires lock in place. To close case: 1. Unlock the support wires by pushing out on the top of each wire. 2. Lower the top of the case until it is in closed position. 3. Replace the power on-off knob. 4. Tighten the 2 screws underneath the front of the case. 5. Plug in the power cord. Figure 4.5 Option baud switches. Printer interface tailoring. Tailoring the printer interface consists of selecting the transmission rate for the printer as shown in Figure 4.5. Consult your printer manual to select the appropriate transmission rate. If the split baud feature is enabled, the option baud switches define both the display's transmit rate and the terminal to printer transmission rate. Operational checkout. The operational checkouts described below will ensure that your terminal is working properly. Before performing the checkouts, read the Dasher D100 and D200 Operator's Manual. Offline checkout. After unpacking and tailoring your system as described above, perform the following steps. Make sure the power supplied by the selected wall outlet is compatible with the power requirements listed on the label at the rear of the display unit. Then, plug the power cord into the outlet. Disconnect your communications cable if installed. Turn the power on and wait 10 seconds for the cursor to appear in the upper left corner of the display screen. Adjust the display intensity as desired. Note, A character appearing at the top center of the display screen indicates that the power-up diagnostic detected a problem. If this occurs, read the problem diagnosis section appearing at the end of this chapter. Perform the procedures outlined in Table 4.2. Since many procedures specified in the table incorporate display commands, it may be helpful to reference the display commands described in Chapter 2, Programming. Procedure. Expected result. Check on line light. On line light is off. Press alpha lock key. Alpha lock light goes on. Type in some text on keyboard. Text appears in uppercase. Press alpha lock key. Alpha lock light goes off. Type in more text. Text appears in lowercase unless Shift is used. Press Ctrl G. Terminal emits a beep. Press Ctrl T and enter some text. Text appears underscored. Press Ctrl / and enter some text. Text appears dimmed and underscored. Press Ctrl C, Ctrl N and enter. Text blinks and is dimmed and some text underscored. Press Ctrl U and enter some text. Underscore does not appear under new text but remains under old text. Press Ctrl right bracket and enter some text. New text is brightly displayed, but old text remains dim. Press Ctrl O and enter some text. New text does not blink, but old text continues blinking. Press Ctrl D. All text stops blinking. Press the cursor control keys. That cursor moves in direction of arrow. Have arrows on them. On each keycap. Press Home. Cursor moves to upper left corner of screen. Press Ctrl S, enter some text, and cursor moves to bottom of screen. Repeatedly press New Line. Then jumps to top and continues. Moving downward, text is not affected. Press Ctrl R and repeatedly hit. Cursor moves to bottom of screen. New line. Then text moves up one line with each depression of new line. Press Ctrl T, Ctrl / Ctrl C. Text is underscored, dimmed, and Ctrl N and enter some text. Blinking. Press Ctrl L and enter some text. Screen clears and new text is not underscored, dimmed, or blinking. Move cursor to middle of previously. Characters from cursor position to entered line of text and press Erase. EOL. End of line, inclusive, are erased. Table 4.2 Offline Checkout Procedure. Activate the cursor controls on the D100 terminals by pressing the Command key together with the desired cursor function key on the cursor numeric keypad, or by first placing this keypad in cursor lock mode by pressing Command 9. The cursor lock light goes on to indicate that the keypad is in cursor lock mode. Press Command 7 to disable cursor lock mode. Online Checkout. After a successful offline checkout, proceed as follows. Plug the communications cable into the terminal's 25-pin interface connector and configure your system as required. Make sure that the host computer contains an appropriately coded echo program that will be called when the keyboard transmits data. Place the terminal online. Enter alphanumeric data on the keyboard and observe that the display is receiving the data from the system. Note, if a solid white block, smaller than the cursor, appears on the screen, a transmission error occurred. In most cases, this means that either the parity or transmission rate selected for the terminal is not compatible with the host system. Refer to the display commands in Chapter 2 and enter these commands through the keyboard. Observe that the display is responding appropriately. If the terminal fails to respond as expected, read the problem diagnosis section on the next page. If the terminal contains the optional printer interface and the printer is present, plug the printer's EIA cable into the terminal's printer connector and power up the printer. Then, refer to the printer display commands and transmit displayed information to the printer. Problem diagnosis. If your terminal does not respond properly, see Table 4.3 below. Symptom. Probable cause. No cursor appears within 10 seconds of power up. Brightness control turned down. Display malfunction, power supply, microprocessor, or program ROM. The screen is blank except for the cursor, and the online light is off. Bad connection to the host computer, see Figure 3.2, or bad modem if using one. Display beeps and displays a character. Letter A displayed. Keyboard cable connector is improperly seated in the keyboard receptacle at the rear of the display, see Figure 4.3. Other letter displayed. Display and/or keyboard. Malfunction. None of the above. One of the following may be causing the problem. Bad connection to keyboard, see Figure 4.3, or host computer, see Figure 3.2. Improper AC voltage supplied to terminal power supply, see technical specification on the inside of the front cover. Incorrect switch settings for parity and transmission rate, see Figures 4.4 and 4.5. Bad modem, if using one. Configuration of host system does not support terminal properly. Chapter 5. Architecture. D100 and D200 terminals consist of two separate units, a display and a keyboard, that are connected by an external cable. The display houses a cathode ray tube and yoke assembly and one printed circuit board. This modular design facilitates maintenance because malfunctions can be isolated to one of three main components: the circuit board, the cathode ray tube, yoke assembly, or the keyboard. Figure 5.1 locates these three components. Printed circuit board. The circuit board contains four major units: the control logic, the display logic, the interface logic, and the power supply. These units, except for the power supply, are connected by a bidirectional bus as shown in Figure 5.2. Control logic. The control logic governs the terminal's response to ASCII codes from the computer and commands from the keyboard. Its main components are a microprocessor and a read-only memory, the program ROM. The microprocessor synchronizes the operations of the other units and coordinates the transfer of information between them. It also stores the current attributes that determine how characters will be displayed, for instance, blinking, underscored, etc. The program ROM stores the instructions, or firmware, that the microprocessor executes to control the other units. Display logic. The display logic controls cursor positioning, the displaying of characters, and screen rolling. Its main components are a display RAM, the CRT control logic, and a character generator ROM. The display RAM stores the ASCII codes for the characters to be displayed on the screen as well as each character's attributes. The CRT control logic controls display operations. It is programmed by the microprocessor to perform the display operations. Following functions: initiates screen refreshing by continually providing the CRT driver circuits with synchronizing signals and the contents of the display RAM. Maintains the cursor address and controls the positioning of the cursor accordingly. The character generator ROM stores the bit patterns that determine how each displayable character appears on the screen. Different character generator ROMs are used for the different character fonts. Keyboard. Interface logic. The interface logic provides a communications interface. This asynchronous serial interface allows communication in full duplex mode between the microprocessor and a computer via a 20 mA current loop or an EIA-RS-232C communications line. When the split baud and printer option is present, an additional asynchronous serial interface, printer interface, allows communication between the microprocessor and a local printer via an EIA-RS-232C communications line. Both interfaces use a universal asynchronous receiver and transmitter. The line characteristics, e.g. baud rate, parity, for these interfaces are selected by onboard switches. When the terminal is powered up or switched online, the microprocessor senses the setting of these switches and programs the interfaces to function accordingly. The keyboard consists of keypads mounted on a printed circuit board and 3D100 or 2D200 LED indicator lights. The printed circuit board contains sense circuitry that allows the microprocessor to determine which keys are pressed when it scans the keyboard. When a key is depressed, it moves an insulated foam-backed foil pad towards two contacts on the printed circuit board, thus increasing the capacitance between the foil and the contacts. When the microprocessor scans this key, it detects the increase in capacitance and identifies the location of the key. Operation. Power supply. The power supply provides the 5 DC supply voltages necessary to drive the various circuits within the terminal. The primary power input is either 85,132 VAC or 187,264 VAC, 4,763 Hz, as selected by hardwired jumpers on the board. The power supply uses a switching regulator to provide the output voltages. The incoming AC voltage is converted to a DC voltage and fed through a high-frequency oscillator and into a transformer. The outputs of the transformer are rectified and filtered to provide the various output voltages. Constant power output is maintained by varying the duty cycle of the oscillator, pulse width modulation. Protection circuits prevent damage in the event of an overcurrent or overvoltage condition. The switching of the supply is synchronized to occur when the display screen is retraced, i.e., when the electron beam in the CRT is shut off and the CRT is preparing for the next line scan. This prevents switching pulses from appearing on the screen. CRT yoke assembly. The CRT cathode ray tube is a vacuum tube that projects a beam of electrons towards a fluorescent screen. When this beam hits the screen, it forms a luminous dot. Signals generated by the CRT driver circuits control the position and intensity of this dot. The yoke assembly is an electromagnetic deflection device that moves the electron beam in response to drive signals generated by the CRT control logic. These signals cause the beam to trace out a system of parallel horizontal scans on the screen. 80 column positions are defined within each horizontal scan. Each column consists of 7 dots, which form part of a matrix. 11 consecutive scans form a line of 87 by 11 dot matrices. A character is displayed by controlling the intensity of the dots within a dot matrix as shown in Figure 5.3. Appendix D gives the 7 by 11 dot pattern for each character. The terminal operates in 2 different modes, online and offline. Online, the terminal functions as 2 different I/O devices, a keyboard input device and a display output device. Communication between these 2 devices must be provided by the computer's software. This means that all displayable information entered at the keyboard must be echoed to the display by the executing program. Offline, the terminal functions as 1 device. Figure 5.4 shows how the terminal functions in both of these modes. Powering up. When the terminal is powered up, the microprocessor executes a series of diagnostic programs that test the operation of the control logic and the presence of the keyboard. As soon as it completes these tests, the microprocessor initializes the character attributes to a default state where rolling and blinking are enabled, but no characters will be blinking, dimmed, underscored, or in reverse video until these attributes are specified. Besides initializing the character attributes, the microprocessor turns off the alpha lock to place the terminal in lowercase mode. In a D100 terminal, it also places the keyboard in cursor lock mode to enable the cursor pad. Next, the microprocessor places the terminal online if the communications connector is installed, otherwise, the terminal stays offline. In online mode, the microprocessor constantly scans the keyboard for pressed keys and checks the communications interface for ASCII codes received via the communications line. In offline mode, it only scans the keyboard. Scanning keyboard. The microprocessor scans the keyboard by addressing consecutive keys. If the addressed key is pressed, the sense circuitry on the keyboard sends a pulse to the microprocessor. If the same key or combination of keys is pressed for 2 consecutive scans of the keyboard, the microprocessor generates the ASCII code for the key or combination from its address. It then transfers this code to the communications interface for transmission online, or processes the code internally offline as if it was received from the communications interface. Communications interface. The microprocessor sends ASCII codes to the communications interface online, where they are converted into serial format and transferred to the communications line. When the terminal receives an ASCII code via the communications line, the communications interface assembles the data into an 8-bit buffer. As soon as the code is assembled, the interface notifies the microprocessor to retrieve the code. processing codes. When the microprocessor receives a code from the communications interface online or senses a pressed key offline, it first determines if the code is a control character or a printing character. If it is a control character, the microprocessor performs the defined function. For example, a start dim command causes the microprocessor to change the current attribute settings so that subsequent printing characters are dimmed. If a printing character is received, the microprocessor stores the character's ASCII code along with a copy of the current attributes in RAM. Displaying characters. The CRT control logic continually addresses sequential locations in display RAM, accessing character codes and their attributes. In this way, the logic updates the screen as the microprocessor changes the contents of the display RAM. The character codes, read from display RAM, address locations in the character generator ROM that contain bit patterns used to form each character. These bit patterns, along with the attribute information, enter the CRT driver circuits where they are converted into the voltage levels required by the CRT yoke assembly. At the same time, the CRT control logic generates the cursor and provides the horizontal and vertical synchronizing signals required by the yoke to position the characters on the screen.